Reverend Gideon Paramalam. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.
He is the convener and founder of the Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation. I hope I got that correct.
Excellent.
Oh, really great. Did. Well, you had this celebration yesterday, Reverend. You just look here. Yes, thank you. And it was a rather emotional one, even though a number of people would say a rather queer one at that, in the sense that you're actually celebrating a birthday. You had a cake and things of the sort. However, some people will say it was a rather difficult celebration as well, in terms of, you know, the fact that the person whom you're celebrating is still in captivity. What would you say informed that style of commemoration, so to speak?
Yeah, thank you. I carefully listened to you and also trying to pick out what you wanted to highlight. It was a very difficult one. That is the truth. And like I said previously yesterday, we could have chosen to stay back in our homes and cry. But Leah presently is voiceless. And our celebration yesterday, not just in Abuja, but across the country, is to give a voice to Leah, who has been held in captivity just unjustly. Her education is truncated. Something is happening in her life. Somebody needs to speak up. So basically, that cake there symbolizes, had Leah been here. So it's communicating Leah needs to be here. Don't forget that Leah, as a young child, would remember her birthday. Like I said to some people yesterday, you know, my children actually remind me, they say, Daddy, today's my birthday. Sometimes days before. Even my own birthday, I don't remember. My children remind me, Daddy, today's your birthday, today's Mommy's birthday. And why am I saying this? In other words, Leah may not be here, but she would remember today, in her heart, on her mind. And it's to God's glory that some people decided. You know, one of the things I appreciated yesterday is the quality of the people that turned up for that birthday, the sacrifice. They stayed through till the end. From the National Christian Center at the Khan headquarters in Abuja, they moved on with us to the Unity Fountain. They stayed all through to the end. And I'm talking about our starting at 9 a.m. and continuing there until about 2, 3 in the afternoon. No food except water. People stood, stayed, smiling, crying. That says a lot.
It definitely does. But beyond this, are you in touch with Leah's family members? Do you have any contact whatsoever with them?
Regularly.
Regularly?
I mean, we spoke with Leah's dad yesterday. Mm-hmm. 2 days ago, I spoke to the dad. I speak with the mother from time to time. I tried to reach her. Her line was off, and the father explained, you know, because she had to switch off, or rather, no power, so she sort of was quiet yesterday. But this is also a very emotional woman. In September last year, we invited her over with my wife to stay in our home. And you keep looking at this woman, there's this distant look about her. It's like she is here, but not present. Her mind is far, and she's struggling to speak. She's emotionally hurting inside. That's one of the things that drove me into this advocacy for Leah Sharibu. On March 21st, when all those other girls were released, and Leah was held back, I actually got a call from one of the news agencies in the UK to say, hey, Gideon, are you aware that this girl was held back? Yes, I'm aware. I don't know who she is. I'm going to try and track down and find out who Leah is. And then I tried to make contact to get Leah. Of course, I have lots of people all over this country, including Damatru. And then in the evening, when they showed the news of the parents jubilating for the other 110 girls reuniting with their parents, which is good and we celebrated, I had made a statement a week before that we need to stand up to help these Dapchi girls. At the time, I didn't know who. I didn't know who was what name. I didn't even know Leah. And I said, we need to remember them. And I made that statement at an occasion when an illustrious daughter from Northeast retired from the Supreme Court bench. And I had the chance to bring a goodwill message here in Abuja. And I said, who knows? One of the brilliant Supreme Court judges in the making could be amongst the Chibok girls, could be amongst the Dapchi girls. Because this judge, Justice Clara Ogombi, retired from the Supreme Court. And look at the way we were celebrating her and rejoicing at the kinds of progress she made. You know, she contributed a lot to the Supreme Court. And she's from the Northeast, Borno State. Then I thought about the Chibok girls, thought about Leah, thought about the Dapchi girls. So I made that statement. And then now what happened? So when I watched the news and saw the parents rejoicing, I rejoiced with them. And then as the camera zoomed on Leah's mother, she just slumped and passed out. From that moment, I heard God's voice very clearly. You've got to do something about this situation.
Mm. Well, I mean, it is definitely very painful to listen to, you know, to your account of how Leah's mother is doing, it is only one who doesn't feel that will not understand what it is like for a mother to miss her daughter, and even for parents, not just a mother now, because she still has a father. And I think the last time the father was interviewed, he didn't look very well. He looked like he was also missing his daughter very dearly, as any parent would. However, do you think that, are they getting any psychological help, any psychological support? Aside the fact that, yes, people are showing their support, their solidarity with them. I mean, things like what you're doing, your advocacy group, and what was done yesterday is people telling the family that we haven't forgotten. We have your daughter in mind, and we're also calling on government to do something about it. But aside that, are we trying to give them any, you know, mental support so that by the time even Leah comes back, perhaps the parents do, the healing process will be a lot faster for them?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I like the way you're digging deep into the issues, because sometimes we engage in surface discussions without really looking at the undercurrents of what we need to do. So I would say, yes, we are really thinking about the best ways that we can provide trauma counseling, not just the traditional trauma counseling. It's much more than that. We're looking at ways that we can provide support. But all of this also involves movements. Dapchi is a bit far from where I stay, Jos. That's where Leah's mother is, Rebecca. Yola is where the father stays. He's working with the government. It's not easy for him to just take permission off work. At the time, we brought in Leah's mother to spend time with us. Actually, it was to be both of them. And it's not easy for him to move. It's not as flexible. So this question also, because you ask, I want to throw it back to Leah's father's employers. What are you thinking about the psychological effect, destructive effect that this could have on Leah's father? Both of them are not staying together. I'm not saying it's the government responsible for that. But is it not part of the support system to find ways to encourage them to stay together, to support one another. Let the government be actively involved in supporting them. We keep making excuses in this country, but there are other countries that handle such things much better than Nigeria. We keep making excuses that Nigeria is different. Please excuse me, Nigeria is not different. Nigeria is like any other country in the world, but the people in authority choose not to do the right thing. Leah's mother never got a phone call from any government official until the president called her. Why?
Government always says, we're doing something about this. I know that there have been many rumors about Leah Sharibu's whereabouts. Some even insinuated that perhaps she could be no more. And government has come out very strongly to dispute this and also say, no, we're going to do something. We're going to get her back very soon. Do you feel reassured by the promises the government has made?
To be honest, yes and no. Yes, because any government needs to be given the benefit of the doubt. No, because the government cannot keep making promises. There has to be concrete evidence. Because the government should not make a promise unless they have actionable intelligence to guide them in making that promise. So when they make a promise, hopefully that they will follow through with that promise.
What sort of evidence are you looking to see when you say that you want to see evidence of government action?
Oh yeah, for instance, if you make a promise that hopefully Leah, and it's not just Leah, there are other people in captivity. You've got Alice Ngada, a housewife that was also picked by the same Boko Haram group when she was working with UNICEF in Maiduguri. And by the way, 2 of her colleagues lost their lives. May God comfort their parents.
Amen.
But Alice is there, leaving her 2 children, her husband. They're hurting. So what do I mean? Let's see evidence of some of these hostages held being released. I know some have been released, for which we commend the government. But it shouldn't be a tokenism kind of thing, okay? You release a few people, then everybody should hail the government, and then we go back to sleep, and then we continue like that. We're not talking about 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 month. We're talking about it's getting into years now. For the Chibok girls, 5 years, that's no joke. For Leah, 1 year plus. For Alice Ngada, 1 year plus. Now, don't forget, Leah, her education is being interrupted. She cannot continue with her education. Her classmates, after 1 month, they're back to school and continuing. So that's why make promises, take steps, get some people freed, then we know that progress is being made. Now, again, having said this, I say give them the benefit of the doubt, but let's see some results. That's what I'm just basically asking for. We are partners with the government in a way. But don't forget, these are the citizens of this nation.
When you say we are partners, are you talking about your advocacy group, or are you talking about Nigerian citizens in general?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that as an advocacy group, part of what we're doing is to augment the efforts of government in working hard to get these people out. We don't have to be in government to speak up. Actually, the government should be speaking up. If you ask me, the government should be on the lead in this advocacy. But what the government sometimes does is they come up with narratives, they come up with explanations, but beyond explanations, beyond narratives, Nigerians generally are disillusioned. But when we begin to see results, show, don't tell. There's a lot of telling on the side of the government, but we need to see a lot of showing.
I do remember once, on one occasion, that the Bring Back Our Girls, and I'm sure you know that group, you know, advocating for the return of the Chibok girls and constantly reminding us of how long it's been now, some of those girls in captivity, or have been in captivity. When they were taken to Sambisa, the government showed them, you know, what steps they were taking, but said, oh, you know, these are things we're doing behind the scenes. We cannot show in public. Do you think a government is challenged when you say that they should show in terms of what they're doing to actually secure the release? Because some people will say this is a very delicate matter. Perhaps, there could be negotiations. Government always denies that it ever pays any ransom, but people also insinuate that there could be ransom paid, and then they raise eyebrows as to the implications, assuming indeed that ransom was paid.
I think government doesn't have to come up to the public and say, this is what we're doing today and tomorrow with the terrorist. Mm-hmm. But frankly, there are lines of communications that they can have with the family members, even if they don't want them to reveal to anybody, to the family members, to provide those kind of basic assurances.
Those lines are not there now?
I don't think so. Because, this is where I need to give credit. When Leah's mother came to spend the time with us, and God bless him, the governor of Plateau State, Right Honorable Simon Lalong, His Excellency, when I took Leah's mother to have a meeting with him, just for them to meet, he was the first top government official that this woman was meeting with. And thank God, because Governor Lalong, together with his wife, came along to provide immense support to Leah's mother. Mm. So I doubt. I mean, yes, and then after last year, after the president's call, the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, actually led a delegation and they met with Leah's parents. But each time we communicate, that's about all. That's about all. One phone call from the president, one visit, rest of it silent. Silence. Listen, sometimes I get a phone call, my phone is ringing, and it's Leah's dad. And he's just saying, I want to say hello. But deep down, he's not just calling you to say hello. He's asking, any progress concerning my daughter's case? If they get those kind of quiet, secret lines of communication with the government, they can even tell him, don't tell anybody. So you talk about trauma counseling and help, which some of us are trying to provide. Those are some of the things that can help to reduce the tension for these parents. So you can do that so they know something is going on, but go beyond that also to actually show that something is going on.
Mm. Well, our best thoughts are with the parents of Leah Sharibu. And I want to believe that government officials are watching this morning. Some people will say that part of the criticism that greeted the abduction of the Chibok girls wasn't just a failure in security, but also government handling of the matter. I sincerely hope that, government officials are not making the same mistakes that were made during the Chibok girls era. Perhaps they would have a word or two in terms of what they have done to correct the mistakes that were made during that area, especially in these matters that have been raised. But we have to thank you most kindly for coming on this morning, Reverend Gideon Paramalam. We have to also ask you to keep your voices, loud until the return of Leah Sharibu and other girls, other women who have been abducted by the Boko Haram insurgents. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, and please permit me, because I'm here, just to ask again that the situation in Kaduna State is very disturbing. The security situation in Kaduna State, especially in Kajuru local government, the Adara leaders being held in detention, it's an issue of major concern.
Well, it's definitely an issue to also keep in focus. But thank you again for coming on Sunrise Daily. Well, that's been our segment with Reverend Gideon Paramalam. He is the convener of the Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation, and we've been talking about the abduction of Leah Sharibu, especially on the occasion of her 16th birthday.